Now, we're all aware that exercise is good for our body. Most of us, if not all, work out in one form or another. Some prefer long walks, some prefer working out at the gym, others choose high-intensity interval training. There are various ways to keep yourself fit and your body active. Does exercising mean you're healthier and fitter? Well, it may or may not be true. Experts say overexerting your body can lead to heart attacks, especially amongst young adults these days. It's important for us to understand why heart attacks are suddenly claiming young lives. For the longest time, heart ailments were problems we associated with older people, those above the age of 60. But just a few days ago, a young actor in India died at the age of 46. The reason behind his sudden death? A heart attack, while he was working out at his gym. There have been many such instances in the last couple of years. Young actors dying of sudden heart attacks, young athletes having an untimely demise. They were all seemingly fit people. So what went wrong? Let's first understand the biology behind it. A person suffers a heart attack when the flow of blood to the heart is reduced or blocked. And why does that happen? Because of a blockage in the arteries. So what is triggering a heart attack in young adults? Now, according to medical experts, there are 6 things that make a person vulnerable to heart attacks: diabetes, blood pressure, blood cholesterol, smoking, family history, and lifestyle. Moreover, an episode of stress can also sometimes push the heart over the edge. It can be anything: a new workout regime, a physical ailment, or a stressful life event. Now, the COVID pandemic has been a stressful event for all of us. Some of us lost our dear ones, or some of us caught the virus. And due to that, COVID has resulted in a lot of people suffering from heart problems. Medical experts say before you go to a gym and carry out intense workout sessions, it's important you get a stress test done. So what exactly is a stress test? In this test, a healthcare provider will monitor the heartbeat of a person while they walk on a treadmill or pedal a stationary bike. This will immediately tell you how your heart functions and whether there is a chance of you developing any cardiovascular issues. So when, without a pre-cardiac checkup, people sign up for rigorous workout routines, they lift weights and experiment with high-intensity training, sometimes their heart cannot afford that amount of physical stress. So it's important that you seek medical help the moment you feel uneasy, because at the end of the day, training helps, but straining backfires. For more on this, we're now joined by Dr. Rajay Narayan. He's a cardiologist at Global Health Alliance in the United Kingdom. Thanks very much, Dr. Narayan, for speaking to WION. Now, in recent times, we've seen multiple cases of relatively young people in their 30s and 40s, apparently quite fit, with no history of serious ailments, suddenly dying of heart attacks during workouts at the gym. What explains these sudden deaths? Are workouts killing people in some of these cases? Or is it that we in the media are now suddenly reporting these cases a lot more, given that most of these cases that we're talking about actually involve celebrities? How do you look at it?
So thank you so much for having me on the show. First of all, I must congratulate you that you have given a very good description of what is happening in India. But most importantly, I think it is important that we try and clarify. There are many doubts and messages on social media which says that exercise is not good, exercise can kill you, avoid gyms, especially with the deaths which have been happening in India. So a few things that we need to remember. Number one, exercise is very good for you. The European Society of Cardiology says that you should be doing at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. So when I say moderate intensity exercise, I mean jogging, swimming, running around a little bit. So every healthy individual should be doing 150 minutes moderate intensity exercise per week. So that is the first thing that we need to remember. That is very good for your heart and to prevent heart attack and stroke long term. Number two, people who go to the gym, it is very important, especially if you're trying to do high intensity exercise, that you should get yourself checked. Not necessarily that you need to have a stress test every time you start a gym, but what is important, especially in South Asian and Indian population, that you should definitely get yourself checked for blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, lipid profile. Obviously, if you smoke, you should stop smoking. So those are traditional risk factors that we know can lead to a heart attack. But most importantly, there are conditions with the heart muscle and the conduction system of the heart, which are called channelopathies or myopathies. So there are genetic inherited heart conditions that you can acquire from 3 to 4 generations ago, like a small gene that can just pass from one generation to another and can cause problem with the muscles of the heart. And the only way to scan yourself or to prevent from sudden cardiac death from those heart muscle problems or conduction problem is to get an ECG done and consult your cardiologist. Not necessarily every time you have to have a stress test before you go to the gym.
That is very important advice, Doctor. It's important that we undergo regular health checkups, if not necessarily a stress test, and we certainly should be careful so as to avoid overexerting ourselves. Now, the question that many have also asked is, while most would blame sudden heart attacks on an unhealthy lifestyle or a family history of heart ailments, or in certain cases perhaps even very vigorous workouts, does the seemingly rising incidence of heart attacks in young people have to do with COVID, in your view? Because many believe that we've seen many more such cases since the outbreak of the COVID pandemic.
You're absolutely right. But most importantly, again, we need to understand that we lack data when it comes to looking at the registry for sudden cardiac death in India. We don't have any registry which can tell us about how people have died from sudden cardiac death at an early age. We don't do proper heart biopsy when a young person dies suddenly, because the only way to find out whether a person has died from blockage in the heart or problems with the muscles of the heart that has killed somebody suddenly is by doing a heart biopsy. And unfortunately, we don't do in most of the cases in India. Let me give you a quick example about UK. In UK, about 12 healthy, fit young individuals between the age of 14 to 35 die suddenly on a weekly basis. On a weekly basis in the UK. In the UK is such a small country compared to India. So on a weekly basis, 12 healthy young individuals die from sudden cardiac death. Most of them are related to heart muscle, conduction system, or heart blockage from the blockage of the arteries. But again, we don't have any such data for Indians or in India where we can look at the heart in more detail to see if it is related to COVID, because again, COVID can cause problems with the muscles of the heart. It can cause scarring in the heart muscle, which leads to heart rhythm disturbances. And that is why it is very important that we have a proper research, a proper biopsy, a proper registry of all these sudden cardiac deaths which are happening in India, so that we can identify the cause and treat and make people aware of what is causing this.
Well, Doctor, the figures you've presented for the UK are quite alarming, and if I might add, the situation here in India also seems to be becoming rather worrying with regard to young people dying of sudden heart attacks. I guess the big takeaway from this interaction really is that it's time we stop taking our health and our bodies for granted, especially in this post-COVID era. On that note, Dr. Rajay Narayan, thank you so much for speaking to WION.
Thank you.
Well, work out if you must, and in fact all of us should, but do not overexert yourselves. Look after your heart. That's very important.